The words came without warning, without diplomatic preamble, and without any of the careful language that world leaders typically use when the subject is nuclear weapons. Kim Jong Un, the supreme leader of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, has issued a stark and chilling declaration to the world. This is about survival. 3 words, 4 syllables, and behind them, the weight of dozens of nuclear warheads, intercontinental ballistic missiles capable of reaching the continental United States, and the unpredictable calculations of a man who has ruled one of the most isolated and militarized nations on Earth with absolute, unchallenged authority since the age of 27. You are watching The News Command. I'm Charlotte Rose, and tonight we are tracking a nuclear warning from Pyongyang that has sent alarm signals racing through every defense ministry, every intelligence agency, and every diplomatic channel from Washington to Seoul to Tokyo to Beijing. This is not background noise. This is not routine rhetoric. When a nuclear-armed leader frames his weapons program in the language of existential survival, the world has an obligation to listen, carefully, soberly, and with full awareness of what is actually at stake. So let us begin. Let us give you the context, the facts, the analysis, and the honest assessment of what this moment means, not just for the governments involved, but for every ordinary person living in the shadow of a world that contains nuclear weapons and leaders willing to invoke them. To understand why Kim Jong-un's words carry the weight they do tonight, you need to understand the history and the architecture of the North Korean state, because nothing about this crisis makes sense without that foundation. North Korea, officially the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, was born out of the devastation of the Korean War, a conflict that ended not with a peace treaty, but with an armistice in 1953, meaning that technically the Korean War has never ended. The Kim dynasty, founded by Kim Il-sung, has ruled North Korea for more than 7 decades through a system of total political control, extreme ideological conditioning, and the deliberate cultivation of siege mentality. Every North Korean citizen is taught from birth that their nation is surrounded by enemies, primarily the United States and its South Korean ally, and that the survival of the Korean people depends on absolute loyalty to the leadership and absolute readiness for war. This is not incidental propaganda. It is the structural foundation of the state's legitimacy. And the nuclear weapons program, which began in earnest under Kim Jong-il and has been dramatically accelerated under Kim Jong-un, is the ultimate expression of that survival doctrine. Pyongyang's calculation has always been brutally simple. Nations with nuclear weapons do not get invaded. Muammar Gaddafi gave up his weapons program and was overthrown and killed. Saddam Hussein never had nuclear weapons and was removed by American military force. Kim Jong-un has studied both cases with great attention. His nuclear arsenal is not a bargaining chip. It is, in his view, the only guarantee of his regime's continued existence. Here is what we know about the specific warning that Kim Jong-un has issued and why analysts across the world are treating it with extraordinary seriousness tonight. In a statement delivered through official North Korean state channels and amplified through the Korean Central News Agency, Kim Jong-un declared that North Korea's nuclear posture is now explicitly framed around national survival. The phrase, "This is about survival," did not emerge in isolation. It came alongside references to what Pyongyang describes as escalating hostile policies from the United States and its allies, specifically the deepening military alliance between Washington, Seoul, and Tokyo, the increased frequency and scale of joint military exercises on the Korean Peninsula, and what North Korean officials characterize as American attempts to achieve regime change through economic strangulation and diplomatic isolation. Kim's statement, according to analysts who have reviewed it in full, signals a potential shift in North Korea's declared nuclear doctrine, from a posture of deterrence to something that sounds considerably more like a posture of preemptive readiness. That distinction is not semantic. A deterrence posture says, "We have nuclear weapons and we will use them if you attack us first." A preemptive readiness posture says, "If we believe an attack is coming, we may not wait to absorb the first blow." The difference between those two positions, in a crisis that is moving fast, could be the difference between a tense standoff and the most catastrophic military exchange since the Second World War. The international reaction to Kim's declaration has been swift, serious, and revealing in its shape. In Washington, the National Security Council has convened for urgent consultations. Senior administration officials, speaking on background, have described the statement as deeply concerning and said that the United States is consulting closely with its allies in the region. The State Department issued a formal statement reiterating America's commitment to the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, while also affirming its ironclad security commitments to both South Korea and Japan. In Seoul, the reaction has been one of controlled but palpable alarm. South Korea sits within minutes of North Korean artillery range. Its capital, Seoul, a city of 10 million people, is located just 35 miles from the demilitarized zone. South Korean president has called an emergency meeting of the National Security Cabinet. Japan, which has been struck by North Korean ballistic missiles flying over its territory on multiple occasions, issued a strong statement calling Kim's nuclear declaration unacceptable and reaffirming Japan's commitment to strengthening its own defense capabilities. China's reaction is the one that carries the most strategic weight because Beijing is the only nation on Earth with meaningful economic and political leverage over Pyongyang. China's foreign ministry called for calm and restraint from all parties, but notably, Beijing also called on the United States to show flexibility in its approach to North Korea, language that American officials will read as a pointed criticism of Washington's policy of maximum pressure and precondition-based diplomacy. Let me take you deeper into the analysis now, because I think it is important that you understand not just what Kim said, but why he may be saying it at this particular moment, and what it tells us about the direction this crisis could take. Several factors have converged in recent months to create the conditions for exactly this kind of escalatory declaration from Pyongyang. First, the trilateral security alignment between the United States, South Korea, and Japan has deepened significantly, with new agreements on intelligence sharing, coordinated missile defense, and joint military exercises that North Korea views as rehearsals for a decapitation strike against its leadership. Second, North Korea has been watching developments in Ukraine, in the Middle East, and across the Indo-Pacific with careful attention, and the lessons Kim Jong Un appears to be drawing are consistent and alarming. That American security guarantees are not unconditional, that the international order can be disrupted by actors willing to use force, and that nuclear weapons remain the ultimate guarantee of sovereignty. Third, North Korea has made dramatic advances in its weapons capability over the past 3 years. It has tested intercontinental ballistic missiles with demonstrated range to reach the continental United States. It has developed what analysts believe are miniaturized nuclear warheads suitable for delivery on those missiles, and it has been accelerating production of fissile material at a rate that suggests Pyongyang is not merely maintaining its arsenal, it is expanding it. The combination of a more capable arsenal and a more aggressive declared doctrine is precisely what defense planners describe as the most dangerous possible evolution of a nuclear threat. So where does this leave us? Where does it leave the world? And what does it mean for you? For the ordinary person watching tonight who did not wake up this morning expecting to spend their evening contemplating nuclear weapons and the calculations of a man in Pyongyang who believes his survival depends on them. Let me be honest with you, as I always try to be. There are no easy answers here. The North Korean nuclear problem is one that 3 decades of American policy, across administrations of both parties, through strategies of engagement and isolation, through direct diplomacy and maximum pressure, has failed to solve. Kim Jong Un has more nuclear weapons today than his father had. He has more capable delivery systems, and he has a declared doctrine that is more aggressive than anything Pyongyang has articulated before. The path forward requires something that has been in chronically short supply in this crisis: strategic patience, genuine diplomatic creativity, and a willingness from all parties, including Washington, to acknowledge that the current approach has not produced the desired outcome and that something different must be tried. It also requires China to use its leverage in ways it has been reluctant to do, and it requires the international community to hold together on a coordinated response rather than fracturing along the lines of great power competition. None of that is simple. None of it is guaranteed. But the alternative, a world in which a nuclear-armed North Korea with a survival-framed doctrine and an expanding arsenal continues on its current trajectory unchecked, is a world that is measurably more dangerous for everyone alive today and for every generation that comes after us. I'm Charlotte Rose. This is the News Command. We will not stop watching this story, and we will not stop bringing it to you with the clarity and the depth it demands. Stay with us. Stay informed. The world needs your attention right now, and we will be here every step of the way.